Hi guys, welcome back. So I've got my Pan in Every Eyeshadow palette update video today. There are a few things that I want to kind of cover in today's video because I've got some updates obviously since the last update I gave you, and there are going to be some changes that I'm going to put into place as well. So there's a few different things that I want to cover. And I'm going to start off with my request to you guys in the previous update video where I asked for your suggestions on what to do with 3 of the eyeshadow palettes that I'm working on. And I've got them here. They are my Urban Decay Naked Heat, ABH Modern Renaissance and Norvina. And I identified some shades within all 3 of these palettes that I knew that I just didn't want to use because they were either too dark or they were cool toned, and I just knew that I wasn't going to use them. So I asked you guys for some suggestions as to what to do with these palettes. Shall I depot them or not? And I got quite a few comments, so thank you very much if you did provide a suggestion. And I got a wide range of different comments. Some people said just leave the palette, some people said try to cover up the shades that you know you're not going to use, others said just scrape out the shades you're not going to use, others said have a go at depotting. So a few different suggestions as to what to do for these palettes, but I did get one comment on that video, and also the same sort of comment I received on Instagram as well, and it was to do with these 2 palettes, mostly the comments were, and those 2 comments both said, well, there's 5 shades in Modern Renaissance that you're not going to use, and 5 shades in Norvina that you will use, so why don't you depot those 5 shades from Modern Renaissance, depot the 5 shades from Norvina, and switch them round. And that was a brilliant suggestion. I don't know why that hadn't crossed my mind, so thank you both very much for that suggestion. And that is what I actually did. Now, I did film myself depotting these eyeshadow palettes along with a couple of others, but I haven't put that video up because it very quickly went horribly wrong. I think anything that could have gone wrong in that video went wrong. I feel like I did everything that I should have done in that video. So I put some alcohol in the shadows before I depotted them so they wouldn't crack. I used a hairdryer on the back to help loosen up the glue. I was very gentle with how I was doing it, but I had some eyeshadows crack. I had some completely kind of fall apart. My little bottle of alcohol started leaking, so it was just a nightmare in the end. So I actually gave up filming it, so that's why I haven't actually put a video out about what I've done. So I'm just explaining in today's video what I have done with these palettes. So in the end, I did manage to take out the 5 shades from Norvina and put them into Modern Renaissance and vice versa. So Modern Renaissance now looks like this. It looks like my neutral ideal eyeshadow palette because they're all warm tones, they're all fairly light. The darkest we get is up here, so that one I'll just probably use as like an eyeliner shade, but this is like my ideal warm neutral everyday eyeshadow palette. I love how this one looks now. I'm very pleased with how this eyeshadow palette looks. And then with Norvina, full of pinks and purples, full of mostly cool tone colours, but they are quite dark. So it's really clear to see the shades that I do like and the shades that I don't like. So what I'm going to do with this palette is I took a picture of it and I sent it to my boyfriend's sister and I was like, will you use this? And she said, absolutely I will. So I will give this to her. I did see her yesterday actually, but I totally forgot to bring this with me. I mean, it's worked out okay because I've now shown you guys what this one is like. So she will use this palette. She is cool toned, which is really handy because any cool tone clothes or makeup that I've got or that I had, I can pass on to her and I know that she'll use them. And I'm pretty sure she's a summer as well. So pinks and purples like this, she will get a lot of use out of, and she said as well that she really likes pinks and purples. So that is handy. She can have this palette, so that would be one palette, 14 shades out of my collection. And I can now open Modern Renaissance and know that I like and will use every single shade within this palette. So it was a bit of a faff getting there with these 2, but they are now done. So the next time I see my boyfriend's sister, she can have this palette. And I didn't really get many suggestions as to what to do with the Urban Decay Naked Heat, so I had a little look online and I saw a post on Reddit where somebody said that they basically took like a drill to this eyeshadow palette and kind of like got in there and completely like hacked away at this to get all the eyeshadows out. And I thought, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do with this eyeshadow palette instead is just focus on the 4 bottom shades down here, the shades that I like. And once I've completely used up these 4 shades, I will pass this palette on to somebody else. So this palette for now, nothing is going to happen to this palette. And then I did as well depot my 2 Laura Geller Face and Eye palettes. So I had one palette that was mostly kind of cool toned, but there was 2 shades, 2 eyeshadow shades within that palette that I wanted to keep, and I got rid of the other 2 eyeshadows and the blusher and the highlighter, and I've put them in here. And then with the warmer toned palette, I got rid of the highlighter and the blusher because the highlighter I knew I just wasn't going to wear, and the blusher was very intense. So I've kept the 4 eyeshadows. So what I have done is I've put them in here. I need to be careful with this one actually because I've repressed that one. Let me take that one out. So I've put them in here into a magnetic palette. That was another issue that I had in that video as well. I thought I had a magnetic palette, so I bought some magnetic backs and stuck them onto my single eyeshadows, but obviously the palette I had wasn't magnetic, so they were just flying all about the place. So the ones from the Laura Geller palettes are these rectangular ones here, so I have 6 here that I'm working on. 2 of them got ruined in the depotting process, but luckily I was able to salvage most of them, which is this one here and this one here. They looked really dodgy when I repressed them because where my bottle of alcohol was leaking, so much alcohol went into repressing it, and I thought, oh god, they're ruined. But they're not. They look a bit dodgy, but they perform fine, so that's good. And then the round ones are my MAC ones and 1 single Makeup Geek. I did have another Makeup Geek one, but when I was getting ready yesterday, I dropped this palette and that Makeup Geek one smashed and went absolutely all over this palette. Couldn't salvage it at all. And my Lisa Eldridge single, that got broken in half. I have repressed it, so that was the shade that I took out because I didn't want it to, you know, potentially slide because it's not fully set yet. So, oh god, the saga of my eyeshadow singles continues, but now my singles are all in here and I'm working on this palette as part of my shop my stash to figure out what I like and what I don't. Oh, I've just opened a window because it's really warm. I've got a ring light on and it's really sunny today, so hopefully we don't hear a lot of outside noise, but yeah, it's really warm. So that is what I've done with my palettes then. So I've merged ABH, Norvina and Modern Renaissance, and I've depotted my 2 Laura Geller Face and Eye palettes. So I feel like my collection is a lot more streamlined now. So really happy with how it's looking, but yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare process trying to get there. So what I'll do now is I will show you the shades that I've been focusing on and give you my numbers and put in some pictures as to how they are looking. So starting off with my Vive Essentials palette, arguably my favourite palette. Love this palette, love the colour story. I am working on the shade Delicious, which I am using as an eyeliner shade. So that's why it's got like a long line dent in it. I am very close to hitting pan on this though, because I'm using an eyeliner brush. Obviously it's quite compact, so I can really like dig my brush in it. So I don't think I'm far off hitting pan on this shade at all. I've used it 10 times since the last update, so not a load of times, but enough where I have seen some progress in it. And yeah, I think it is just the fact that my brush is really dense. That's really helped get a really nice dent in that eyeshadow pan. I've got 2 shades from the Vive Muse palette, so a pinky purple palette. I have been working on Peony, which I've only used twice, and then Divine next to it, which I have used 16 times, and I've used this as like my inner corner highlight shade, and I do have a good dent going on in that one as well, so I don't think I'm far off hitting pan on that shade either. But Peony I've used twice, barely used it, and that's just because I've had another eyeshadow shade quite similar to this that I used to set my eyeshadow primer, so there hasn't really been much of a need to use this shade. Okay, so I had 2 shades from ABH Norvina, which I have now put into Modern Renaissance, so I need to try and figure out if I know where these 2 shades are. First up is Base. Yep, that one's Base. This one is Base here, so it is that kind of matte ivory shade, and that's the shade that I've been using to set my eyeshadow primer. I used that one 17 times, and I've still got a way to go until I hit pan on that shade, which is surprising because I use a lot of it. So I'm surprised that I haven't hit pan on it by now, but I will do, it's just a matter of days. And then the next shade I use 10 times, which is Summer. It is this beautiful foiled shimmery warm gold shade. I love this shade. Still my favourite eyeshadow shade to wear at the moment, so don't think I'm far off hitting pan on that one either. I have a nice big kind of dent in it where I use my finger. And then a shade actually from Modern Renaissance that I haven't like put in here from Depotting was Raw Sienna, and this is my only pan from the last update. So I have hit pan on one shade. It's Raw Sienna. I do have a little pan on it, and I was using that as my crease shade and also to go under my lower lash line. And it took me 9 uses since the last update to hit pan on that shade. So within this palette I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pans. So from my 2 Laura Geller Face and Eye palettes, I was focusing on one eyeshadow shade from each palette, and my usage is incredibly low. Now I need to try and figure out which one was which. So Toasted Taupe, I'm pretty sure is this one. Didn't use it at all. And then the other one was Tantalising Taupe, which is the one underneath it, more of like a bronze shade, and I used it once. So very, very poor numbers with those. And I will come on to why that possibly is and what I'm going to do about it in a moment. So I've got my little NARS duo in the shade Isolde. I've hit pan in this one, and I'm now working on hitting pan in this shade, and I used it 6 times since the last update. Quite sort of shallow pans, so if I really focus on this, I don't think that this would take me long at all, but only used it 6 times. And then there are 2 shades from Urban Decay Naked Heat that I'm working on. So one of them is in the shade Lumbre, which is this really sparkly orange shade. I used that one 4 times, and then because I hit pan on Raw Sienna from Modern Renaissance, which is my crease shade, I have decided to roll in Sourced, and this one I have used 6 times since rolling it in. So those are my numbers since the last update. So some shades I have done fairly well in, my numbers are all right. I've hit pan in one shade as well, but others like those Laura Geller shades I've hardly used. I used one of them once and then the other not at all. So in the last update, I got a comment from Laura who said she thinks that I'm spreading myself too thin with this challenge. I've only got 2 eyes, and she's totally correct. I have a few challenges going on. With this one, I'm trying to hit pan in as many of my eyeshadows as I possibly can. I've got my Shop My Stash going on, I've got my Project Pan going on, so I have a few challenges, I suppose, that are going on at any one time on my channel, and it feels like I am wearing and trying to use a lot of makeup. Now bear in mind, compared to other sort of beauty creators, whatever you want to call them on YouTube, my collection is actually quite small, but it still feels like I'm wearing a lot of makeup. So in the morning when I gather my makeup and I put it into a makeup bag and I then go to put it on, I'm using so many products, and it's just getting to be quite a lot, and that's really why I'm trying to streamline my makeup collection this year. So what that means in terms of this pan in every eyeshadow palette challenge is that instead of choosing one shade from all of my different eyeshadow palettes to focus on, instead, and again this was a suggestion from Laura, I'm just going to choose a few select eyeshadows to focus on, and I think that would make things so much easier, and it would be less stress, I suppose, for myself trying to think, oh, I've got all of these bits of makeup that I need to use. Now how I was structuring this challenge I think worked really well. You know, I think I had 4 pans in my January update, my February update, my first and second update, so it was working, but now I feel like there's too many shades to work on. So I am going to choose a few select eyeshadows to focus on, and at the next update I will tell you how I've progressed with them, and if I have hit pan on any of them, then that's when I'll choose another one to work on. So I will now show you what those few select eyeshadows are. So I'm only going to include 4 eyeshadows, and these are going to be very basic, easy to wear, interchangeable eyeshadow shades that are going to work with any eyeshadow look that I choose to wear that day. And the reason I've decided to do this is because in my recent Shop My Stash, I decided to include all of my eyeshadow singles. So I don't want to give myself too many eyeshadows within this challenge to do, and then try to balance that with wearing all of my eyeshadow singles as part of my Shop My Stash. So the shade that I have decided to include, I'm going to keep Base from Norvina, which is now in my Modern Renaissance palette, because this is the shade that I wear to set my eyeshadow primer, and then because it's a matte ivory, it doesn't matter what colour I put on top of it, it's going to go with any eyeshadow. So that will be eyeshadow number 1. Number 2 is going to be my crease shade, because again, it doesn't matter what colour eyeshadow I choose to wear with it, I'm always going to need to wear a crease shade. So I'm going to stick with Sourced from my Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I'm also going to keep Delicious from my Vive Essentials palette. This is my brown powder eyeliner colour, so again this one will go with any eyeshadow look that I choose to wear. And I'm also going to keep Divine from the Vive Muse palette, because this is a shade that I use as an inner corner highlight. So again, really versatile shade, it doesn't matter what eyeshadow colour I've got on, this one will work. So hopefully that's going to make things feel a little bit easier. There's going to be less pressure to use so many more different eyeshadow colours. And then also after this current Shop My Stash, I think there will be a few declutters actually, because I've done my makeup today with the eyeshadow singles and it's turned out quite cool toned. So yeah, there will probably be some declutters, and also the fact that one of my Makeup Geek shadows got completely ruined, so that one has been thrown away. So yeah, after my Shop My Stash, my eyeshadow singles will be even more streamlined, and then that will just make things a little bit easier when I start to add in other colours once I've hit pan in more shades. So I'm hoping for a few pans in the next update then, because with both of the two Vive shades, the brown shade I use as the eyeliner and then the inner corner highlight shade, I'm very close to hitting pan in them. So hope that those will be pans by the next update, and hopefully similar thing with Norvina Base and then the Urban Decay Sourced crease shade, because those shades I would use every single time that I wear makeup. Hopefully they will be a pan in the next update as well. So yeah, feeling more positive about this update and how things will hopefully start to progress moving forwards. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked it. Hope you kind of agree with the changes as well. And thanks again very much for your suggestions in my last update video as well. Really do appreciate your guys' thoughts. So thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you again very soon for my next one. Bye.